So today's video is about the time when I went to the CEO Salvation Army sleep out in Hobart with Darran Petty Films, and I'm so happy he took me along to this. And what it's about is raising awareness for homeless people and their conditions and just starting the conversation. And this video is basically about it and what it was about. And thank you again for Darren for allowing me to come with him and experience this, because not a lot of people my age get to experience what the streets on Hobart look like at night. So yeah, hope you enjoy the video.
People who have been sleeping rough for a long time or have been experiencing homelessness for a long time, they may have some complex issues that need the wraparound support. So it's housing first, but it's got to have the support wrapped around that, so that tenancy is maintained for the life of that person, however long they want to stay there. And certainly in community housing or Housing Tasmania, there is capacity for them to do that. It's a different matter getting into the private market, which I'll talk about a bit later. But if you have that wraparound service, then that puts that person on a trajectory where they never have to go back and fall into a level of homelessness ever again. If we don't provide that level of support, and ongoing support for some people, some people it may take years or a lifetime to maintain that. But if we don't get it right, we run the risk of seeing people coming back through this as just a revolving door process, because it hasn't worked, so therefore they fall back into homelessness again. And they fall into those areas where their mental illness may not have been well diagnosed or therapeutically treated. Their drug and alcohol addictions may not have been supported. And I don't know too many people who go to primary school and put their hands up and say, I have an aspiration. One day, I want to grow up to take drugs. And I want to grow up to have a mental illness. And I want to grow up to be homeless. Now, I've never seen anybody actually do that at a very young age. So we have an impression that a lot of the time people are making lifestyle choices to be in that sort of a situation. I think one of the biggest causes of the three of the issues, and they're all combined, is trauma. And we're discovering that people go through a period of trauma in their lives, that there's no reconciliation in their lives to be able to deal with that at the time. So they carry the wounds, they carry the scars of those issues, which leads on to using substances, alcohol or whatever it is, to actually treat the pain, to take away the pain and numb them towards those sorts of issues. Because that seems like an easy fix at the time. I've been to so many AA meetings and supported people over the years where people say that I had everything in my life and things weren't going too badly, and then I woke up one day and there was just a hive of other people like me who were doing the same things. The only friends I had in life were the people who had addictions or were doing that same sort of thing. So I think people are all different. They all come from different backgrounds. They all have different trajectories. The thing we really like to do and we really espouse with the Salvation Army is that it's underpinned by a number of things, but one of the things to me is that hope and love, and that's what so many people are missing out on. A lot of services are reluctant to get down and dirty with people and share their experiences and give people a hope and show people there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Show them there is hope. And sometimes we can't do things for people. Sometimes we can't just go and say, look, here's a house. Sometimes we just can't provide those things that people may need straight away. But I tell you what, it does make an actual difference if you can actually sit down and have a conversation with somebody and demonstrate by your actions that you actually care. That you're not one of those people who just turns a blind eye to someone's pain and thinks that it will take it away. Because if you don't see it, it doesn't hurt. And now, that little squat's been over there for years, for weeks I should say. Now, nobody would recognise it. They'd go, oh yeah, someone's chucked a heap of garbage. Next morning they're going to pick it up. But people who walk through and back through this mall every day will notice that, and they'll see that. And they'll start to say, why doesn't somebody do anything about that? And that's where if we had a focus on sensationalising these stories, we miss the real underlying point. We miss the root cause analysis, where we can understand where somebody's coming from, what their needs are, and where we can actually point them in the right direction. So that's part of what we do. But we'll to heat up at Salamanca probably in about half an hour, and we're going to talk to the street teams down there. But I'll point out just a couple of other places where people actually sleep. Places that are isolated, yes, because you're not going to get the through traffic. What if someone happens up there? Is anybody going to really hear you scream? If you heard somebody scream up there now, how many of us would put our hands up and race up there? I think we'd be on the, but most of us would be on the phone to the police and go, hey, there's something going on here. And look, and unless you were experienced enough and able to look after yourself enough, I wouldn't advise anybody to run up there and do something, unless they were carrying pistol, mace, body cam, all the stab vest, all the rest of it. Because it's life on the streets is potentially a danger. That certainly adds to the terror and the uncertainty and trauma of living on the street.
In this next bit of footage, you'll be seeing me interviewing Darran Petty Films about the sleep out he attended to, and he stayed for the entire night. I, however, just went on a walk and tour and looked around. Alright, hope you enjoy. So guys, I'm here with Darran Petty. As I said before, I'm going to be asking Darren a few questions about the Hobart Sleep Out run by the Salvation Army to raise awareness for homeless people in Hobart. So yeah, so first, how are you, Darren? And thank you for doing this.
I'm very good, Jordie-B, and you've just caught me dressed in my suit because I just did a photo shoot with John X, and I don't normally dress like this day to day, but you've literally just came in at the exact time I was doing it, so that's why I'm wearing a suit, guys. Thanks for coming in, and thank you so much for coming along to the CEO Sleep Out. It was wonderful to have yourself and Harrison Hurd there to experience what not a lot of 14-year-olds would experience, and that is what really goes on with homelessness in Hobart. And I think it's a wonderful thing for you guys to do.
Alright, great. So the first question I have, what was the sleep out? What was the sleep out about? Like,
sure.
What was it about?
So the Salvation Army CEO Sleep Out is a symbolic gesture and a group of CEOs and notable people in public office to do something to suggest that homelessness, that they do recognise homelessness exists. They come together, they spend the night outside the Hobart Grand Chancellor, and that in turn raises awareness for the actuality of homelessness. And so with that, they had conversations. So they had a big long table conversation where they had the Minister of Housing, a couple of people experiencing homelessness, and some social workers from the Salvation Army there, and they spoke about the issue of homelessness before then entering into the sleep out itself, which then we were a part of that night.
Yes. Yes. Now, what was the real purpose of it? I'm aware that it was to raise awareness of homelessness, but was there any other key factors?
Sure, it's to raise awareness, but also start a conversation. So we can raise awareness for anything, but the continuation of the conversation is what really helps with an issue. And now that the fact that I was there with my camera and things like that I'll be able to put that video online, and that continues the conversation. So to answer your question, what was the actual point rather than raising awareness? What was the point of sleeping outside the Grand Chancellor? It's to have people experience what homelessness feels like. So homelessness, obviously, you don't have a home, and some people don't have even a bed, and some people did bring sleeping bags and things, but Josh Lavelle and I, we were there without a bed and without any amenities at all. We just rocked up in our clothes, and I didn't sleep all night, but Josh actually slept on the concrete. So we were there. What it's all about is to have people experience what homelessness feels like.
Was there any new things you learned or relearned while you were there? And if there is, would you like to tell us?
Yeah, sure. What I learned was the feeling of the actuality of what primary homelessness is, because there's a difference between primary homelessness and homelessness in its general terminology. People's idea of homelessness can vary, and most people think that homelessness is people sleeping in alleyways and on cardboard boxes, and that is true. That does happen a lot, but there's also homelessness, of which secondary homelessness, which is people sleeping on couches and in bedrooms and rooms and house hopping and moving from house to house and friend to friend or family member to family member because they can't afford their rent, or maybe they have experienced a traumatic time in their life and they have to leave their family or have to leave their home or dwelling. Domestic violence is a big thing that causes people to be homeless. Losing a job causes you to be homeless, could cause you to be homeless. A death in the family could cause you to be homeless. All these different factors attribute to being homeless, and that's something that not a lot of the general public realise, that homelessness is much more than people realise. It's much bigger. And it affects a lot more people than we do actually realise. And the statistics show that, Josh, what was the statistic on that?
Only 8% of people live rough on the streets.
So, as Josh is saying now, only 8% of people experiencing homelessness, it's a rough statistic to show that only 8% of people experiencing homelessness actually live on the streets. There's people experiencing homelessness that not necessarily live on the streets, but are house hopping, couch hopping and all that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. Now, how did you get involved in this? Did people approach you or did you approach them?
Okay. So I was approached by an organisation called Catholic Care, and they asked me to be involved because of my, my social media reach. So I have a fairly large social media following, and that was it basically. They asked me to come and be involved, and I've supported issues before, like domestic violence, with an organisation called Jordie House. So I think that they saw that and saw my social media and asked me just to come along to the event and be there. But it then turned out to be something much bigger, and we're actually working on a documentary film now, both for homelessness.
Right, interesting. Now, can people of the public help, and if so, how can they help?
It's a very good question, Jordie-B. Can people of the public help? Yes, absolutely. There's so many ways in which people can help that it actually gets confusing. And after I completed the Homelessness Week and my involvement, people would say to me, how can I help? And I would say, very simply, the best and first way to help would be to donate items of clothing and bedding and food to the Salvation Army. And also the next step to that would be to donate your time. So you can actually donate, you can actually approach the Salvation Army and give up your time, and there's always something to be done. But that would be the quickest and most logical thing to do to help people experiencing homelessness, actually help the services that help those people. It's very difficult. One thing, Jordie, that people don't realise is that the people that are on the streets asking for money, it's very difficult to discern where that money will end up. You know, so if you give a homeless person some money, we don't know if that money is going towards food and shelter, or if it's going towards things that actually keep them on the streets, which is alcohol and drug addiction. It's a very ambiguous type of topic, and from my opinion, I think the best way to help people experiencing homelessness is to help the organisations that which help them.
Right, right. Is there any last points you would like to make that you feel I've missed, or is that it?
No, I think you've done really well, and I want to thank you for coming along to the CEO Sleep Out. And it's really wonderful to see someone of your age at 14 years old are you 14?
No, 14, nearly 15.
Someone almost 15 years old to come along and experience something that most people your age, 99% of people your age don't experience. And one thing that I'd like to add is that at your age, that was my life. You know, at your age, I moved out of home, and I was without. I had to use those services such as Colony 47, Anglicare, the Link, and all these places to help me get my own home. To help me get a home, because I didn't have anywhere to go. I was forced to move at home, and I went from house to house to house to house to all my friends, and I was homeless. So I was for a number of years. And that's the other reason why I got involved with Homelessness Week, is because I want to, now that I've got my life together, I want to raise awareness that homelessness does still exist, especially for those people age range between 14 and 21 that are experiencing homelessness because of things like domestic violence and the inability to live at home with their parents or guardians. That age bracket, it's a really high risk age bracket in terms of at that age you're very susceptible to being wound up in drugs and alcohol, theft and violence, and that was me. So at your age, you know, I was homeless, and that's why I got involved. And I hope that my message now, I'm able to use my story to maybe, hopefully, help those experiencing that now.
All right, yeah. Well, that's great. Thank you so much for allowing me to do this, and thank you for the opportunity after that at the CEO Salvation Army sleep out in Hobart. And yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And sorry that I wore a suit. I don't usually dress like this.
He doesn't dress like this normally.
No.
This is too fancy.
Yeah, I normally have
I don't know, I
tracksuit pants.
spend all the time with him and he's always in a suit.
Oh, well, Josh is embellishing the truth. That's it. Thank you.
See you in the next video, guys.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a positive comment for Jordie on her YouTube channel called
Jordie.
Jordie.
See you in the next one, guys. Bye.